demonstrations. Obviously, I can't set up a canvas, a blank canvas, and start from the beginning and start painting and see it through to the end, for obvious reasons. The main one being that being a craft skill, it has to be done on a flat surface. No way I could do it on a wall or on a vertical surface. And that's just the cutting. And when it comes to the actual printing, same thing applies. It has to be rolled out on a flat surface. So what I will have to do, I've collected several finished prints that I've got, and I thought I would probably be able to. The fact that it's you can reproduce prints means that every stage of the process I'm able to collect several prints. So there's a record for each print of each stage that it's gone through. So I'll be able to show you what the print started with, how it started, and the various stages of development from then on. The subject comes first. Now, that may seem obvious, but many people work the other way around. Many people work from the medium and like to experiment with medium and see what comes out of the medium. I notice things, I see things in the landscape. I'm essentially a landscape painter. I see things in the landscape that catch my interest, and I feel that I have to record them. When it comes to printmaking, there are certain subjects that really stand out. They're shouting out to be done as a print rather than a painting or a watercolour or an oil painting. And they tend to come into three sort of categories. First of all, you get the pattern type subject. Now, I've started with that because it's the aspect of printmaking that I don't particularly care for, but I very much admire other people's work who do work in this way. And it's where we've got natural forms like animal textures and plant textures and so on. This seems to be the most common way that line printing or woodcut block printing as well are used in this way, in a very, very clear, stylized way. So I have a copy of that somewhere. That's in the folder. Very little in the way of preparation. A very sketchy drawing, a bit of an outline drawing, very little texture in it, very little detail in it. So that is all that really went down onto the block. That was copied onto the block, and that's all I worked from. The rest of it was sort of experimental, if you like. It was playing around with the text, cheaper versions of these, where there's a blade, a series of blades, and a holder for the blades. This is something we use in schools. But I find that professional tools for this job are essential. You need a really, really good chisel, a good gouge, and there's no substitute for it. There's not a great range of different shapes. There's essentially a U-shaped section and a V-shaped section in different sizes. The material itself is very, very resilient it can be printed many, many times without breaking down. The softer it is when you do the cutting, the more control you have. So if I'm doing this in winter, I make sure the radiator on, from time to time, stick it on top of the radiator. This softens it. In summer I have to use the hairdryer and warm it up to keep it nice and soft. So the combination of very, very sharp tools and a soft surface on the liner are very important. It's very clear and a very simple set of shapes on this. So this one's quite clear, but on many of the blocks it isn't easy to see where you already cut. And it's not easy to visualise what it's going to look like at the end after you've finished the cutting of the block. So with practice you get to know, you get a fairly good idea as to what it will look like when you print it out in black and white. If you look at the block as it is now and compare it with the initial drawing, it's not that easy to follow it. The process, I start off with either a drawing, or I may start off with a painting. So two different starting points here. That's a pen and ink drawing. That's a watercolour painting of the subject. On the pen and ink drawing, I will decide what size I want it. And the wonderful invention now is the photocopy. Until the photocopier came along, I had to laboriously trace everything. I had to trace it. Well, it's the next stage actually, but I had to trace it and then reverse it. Because if you're going to put it on the block and then print it, you need a mirror image on the block, so that you get the real image on the original image on your paper. So the problem in getting it reversed, new wonderful invention on the photocopier, when we get a mirror image. So I don't have to go through all the horrible process of tracing the first images, turning the tracing round, drawing over it so it's clear enough to come through, and then carboning it onto the block. Use carbon paper to put it onto the block. So that has saved, the photocopy has saved me an awful lot of trouble. A lot of boring work, a lot of unnecessary work. So that works very, very well. So having got the mirror image from the original drawing, a few too many, I want to. The next stage is to cut away the very lightest bits on the final print. Now this is where I have to imagine what it's going to look like at the end. So I need to keep that little picture in my head. And the first cut is just the highlights. So I'll look at this and say, right, which are the highlights, which are going to be the whitest bits in the finished print, the lightest bits in the finished print, and just cut those away. So that is the first cut. So I've just cut some of the essentials. I didn't bother cutting any sky out of this because I don't know why I did that. Probably because when I came to do the coloured version of that, I would mask the sky out before I did it.
How do you do that? You mask it out? How do you do that?
Just cut out. This is why I do lots of these.
Yeah.
So I can use these as stencils. I can cut out sections of these.
Oh, right.
And on some of these, I've actually got the stencils. I can show you how I do that. So there's the first one done in black and white, but I would never intend that to be a black and white print. That is essentially a coloured print. That is going to be the first colour, the lightest colour, because I always work from dark. Well, it's essential to work from dark to light that way too. So that will be done in various colours. Having done that in right, that's the next stage. So that is that in colour. And I've used two colours. On this particular one, I haven't done it that carefully. I just rolled some colour on the block and see what happens. This is why these are left over, because they're not lined. If I want to be more precise, then I will, as I've said, cut out a step.